This is A Course in Miracles, clarification of terms. Number 2, the ego, the miracle. Illusions will not last. Their death is sure, and this alone is certain in their world. It is the ego's world because of this. What is the ego? But a dream of what you really are. A thought you are apart from your Creator, and a wish to be what He created not. It is a thing of madness, not reality at all. A name for namelessness is all it is. A symbol of impossibility, a choice for options that do not exist. We name it but to help us understand that it is nothing but an ancient thought that what is made has immortality. But what could come of this except a dream which, like all dreams, can only end in death? What is the ego? Nothingness, but in a form that seems like something. In a world of form, the ego cannot be denied, for it alone seems real. Yet could God's Son, as He created Him, abide in form or in a world of form? Who asks you to define the ego and explain how it arose can be but He who thinks it real, and seeks by definition to ensure that its elusive nature is concealed behind the words that seem to make it so. There is no definition for a lie that serves to make it true, nor can there be a truth that lies conceal effectively. The ego's unreality is not denied by words, nor is its meaning clear because its nature seems to have a form. Who can define the undefinable? And yet there is an answer even here. We cannot really make a definition for what the ego is, but we can say what it is not. And this is shown to us with perfect clarity. It is from this that we deduce all that the ego is. Look at its opposite and you can see the only answer that is meaningful. The ego's opposite in every way, in origin, effect, and consequence, we call a miracle. And here we find all that is not the ego in the world. Here is the ego's opposite, and here alone we look on what the ego was. For here we see all that it seemed to do, and cause and its effects must still be one. Where there was darkness, now we see the light. What is the ego? What the darkness was. Where is the ego? Where the darkness was. What is it now, and where can it be found? Nothing and nowhere. Now the light has come, its opposite has gone without a trace. Where evil was, there now is holiness. What is the ego? What the evil was. Where is the ego? In an evil dream that but seemed real while you were dreaming it. Where there was crucifixion stands God's Son. What is the ego? Who has need to ask? Where is the ego? Who has need to seek for an illusion now that dreams are gone? What is a miracle? A dream as well. But look at all the aspects of this dream and you will never question any more. Look at the kindly world you see extend before you as you walk in gentleness. Look at the helpers all along the way you travel, happy in the certainty of heaven and the surety of peace. And look an instant too on what you left behind at last and finally passed by. This was the ego, all the cruel hate, the need for vengeance and the cries of pain, the fear of dying and the urge to kill, the brotherless illusion and the self that seemed alone in all the universe. This terrible mistake about yourself the miracle corrects as gently as a loving mother sings her child to rest. Is not a song like this what you would hear? Would it not answer all you thought to ask and even make the question meaningless? Your questions have no answer, being made to still God's voice, which asks of everyone one question only. Are you ready yet to help me save the world? Ask this question instead of what the ego is, and you will see a sudden brightness cover up the world the ego made. No miracle is now withheld from anyone. The world is saved from what you thought it was, and what it is wholly uncondemned and wholly pure. The miracle forgives, the ego damns. Neither need be defined except by this. Yet could a definition be more sure, or more in line with what salvation is? Problem and answer lie together here, and having met at last, the choice is clear. Who chooses hell when it is recognized, and who would not go on a little while when it is given him to understand the way is short and heaven is his goal? So what is the ego? It's a thought. that you are apart from your creator and a wish to be what he created not. Not reality at all. It says the ego is opposite in every way we call a miracle. And where there was darkness, we see the light. What is the ego? What the darkness was. Where's the ego? Where the darkness was. And earlier I was listening to a talk by David Lynch, who does a lot of transcendental meditation. And he was talking about light bulbs. Like, what is darkness? What is the dark? Like, would you go to the store and buy a dark bulb? Is it possible to even find a dark bulb? No, because the darkness isn't something real. It's just the absence of light. And that's what the ego is as well. It's just very synonymous to darkness in that it is nothing. And, a lot of people sometimes demonize the ego or want to fight it or kill the ego, and that's kind of impossible. And the only way to dissolve it is just by shining light, which you might call happening through a miracle. And yeah, it's basically that. I think that sums it up really well. Can't get dark bulbs at the store. And this section here where it talks about all these questions and answers, it says, what is the ego? The answer is, who has need to ask? And the very first time that I remember getting that question, when I asked more and more questions about the ego, is who is asking? And just by hearing that statement or that question, I realized that it's the ego that wants to know and wants to keep me in this loop of never really getting an answer because it's not really real. So you can't ever really pinpoint it. And so by keeping asking and keeping you caught up into this world of illusion, then it makes it more real. It keeps it preserved. And so that can be a really piercing question to ask oneself, is who is asking that question? And then later it says, where is the ego? And the question back is, who has need to seek for an illusion now that dreams are gone? So once you can get a glimpse of the miracle, then you don't really even need to ask. It's not even relevant. Then it talks about what is a miracle, and it actually says it's a dream as well. And so the miracle is basically the light. It is the light being shined upon the untruth, onto the darkness, onto what is not real. So the world of the ego is all this cruel hate, the need for vengeance, cries of pain, fear of dying, urge to kill, all of these things that we seem to witness in the news and in our lives and sometimes in our minds. And when we can really, really connect with the Holy Spirit, then we have this possibility of seeing the world differently. So then we don't see the world through the lens of death and fear and hate and kill. It actually ends up being a forgiven world. So it says, ask this instead of what the ego is, and you will see a sudden brightness cover up the world the ego made. No miracle is now withheld from anyone. The world is safe from what you thought it was, and what it is wholly uncondemned and wholly pure. The miracle forgives, the ego damns, neither need be defined except by this. It's not about what's happening in the world, but it's about what we're choosing in our mind. Do we want to choose with the ego, or do we want to see a miracle? Do we want to witness a miracle? Are we willing to accept forgiveness in our lives? Thanks, and I hope that brings some clarity, and bye for now.